Hey everyone, thank you for joining the 2020 Knowledge Share Series seminars. This year we're going to be presenting on two different topics, one being the Enneagram test that we all took a couple weeks ago, and two, we will be continuing the Lunch and Learn series that we've been doing for the last couple of years. This a little bit differently this year, we will be doing pre-recorded sessions. So each location will pick a date that works best for their staff. Lunch will be provided, and then you'll watch this recorded video. We're going to cover a couple of positions within the association as part of management session. It was suggested that we cover positions that we might not know a lot about. So we are going to try and dig a little deeper into some of those positions and just get to know more of what each position entails. If you can't make your Lunch and Learns, then we will be uploading the videos to the intranet so that you can view them whenever you want. We're going to try and provide some suggested topic points for discussion after the videos, but then if you have any directly related questions, then you can ask the individual that was that Lunch and Learn session. So as always, if you have any suggestions on different things that we could present within the Lunch and Learns or in the PDS series, then just let Jamie or myself know and we will get that added. If you have specific positions that you want covered in the Lunch and Learns this year, please reach out to us and let us know. You should have already sent some suggestions to Jamie when you sent your Enneagram results. But if you have not done so and you would like to see something different, just let us know. So the topic that we're going to cover today is the Enneagram test that we all took. I'm going to give a little bit of the history on the Enneagram today, and then I'm also going to cover briefly some of the different types of the Enneagrams, and then we're going to dive into what it means to have wings or to utilize our arrows within the Enneagram. This summer I'm going to be sending out information randomly and in a couple different ways based on your personality type. So it'll be type specific or as a type as a whole, and kind of try and just dig a little bit deeper into some of this stuff. The Enneagram is actually a very complex test that we've taken, and I was actually introduced to the Enneagram a few months ago when I did it for an Arbonne work group that I'm in, and we just took the test to figure out what each person on our team was so that we could better understand what their styles were and kind of how we could help them. As I started digging deeper into my own style or type, I realized that there is substantially more to this than I really thought. They've really honed in on different characteristics of the types and different tendencies. So we're going to try and cover some of that. I started talking to Jamie about it all, and we decided that this is a topic that would be best covered within the whole summer rather than just one series because it is so complex. So I hope you guys get a lot out of this, and I hope you're as excited about it as I am. I think it'll be a fun way to really just kind of get to know your coworkers in your office a little bit better. Build that working relationship between your managers and yourself, or just another way to connect with other people within the association. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started and tell you a little bit of the history of the Enneagram. So like I mentioned, I was introduced to the Enneagram a couple months ago. I'd seen it on social media. If you're on social media, you probably had seen it before. But I didn't really know what it was. I knew it had something to do with numbers and personality types, but beyond that, didn't really care, didn't really watch it, anything like that until I took the Enneagram for that work group, and then we really started to dive into it, and I was amazed at how spot on some of the information was. So the Enneagram is broken into 9 distinct types, and as you saw on your results, every person has one distinct type, but we all have a little bit of the other types that builds our person. So it was first utilized in the 14th century, and it wasn't until the 50s that Oscar Ichazo began mapping the personality types around this Enneagram. Originally, it was just to show the different changes in the spiritual dimensions of life. And then later in the 70s, it was developed even further by Claudio Naranjo, and he really identified motivations, cognitive biases, and neurotic tendencies within the 9 types. He was also the first to implement a panel method, so he would sit down and with people that categorize themselves as a certain type, and they would ask them a panel of questions and say, okay, so in this situation, how do you react to this? In this situation, how would you react to this? What motivates you to do this? How do you do this? Or just kind of really asking so many questions to try and really hone into each identity type and say, what are some common characteristics? Why do these people think they are that way? And things like that. And then it was even further developed by Don Rizzo, and he actually added the descriptions of the psychology and included development levels, which differentiate a healthy, the average, and unhealthy tendencies or manifestations within each type. So we're going to cover some of that this summer, and we're going to kind of just see, as we get through this training, we'll talk about wings and arrows like I mentioned before, and some of that you'll take on some other manifestations or tendencies from each of the other personality types depending on your type, your wing, which way you go, etc. So what is an Enneagram even? It's a 9-pointed symbol with a circle around it. Each part of the Enneagram represents something significant. So the circle around the Enneagram represents that we are all interconnected and all types are equal to each other. And it also represents unity. The 9 points are numbered 1 through 9 and represent the 9 different personality types. We all have one primary type that impacts our perceptions, actions, and interpretations of the world, resulting in each type having its own core motivation. So based on how you were raised, different experiences you've had throughout your life, all of that forms who you are as a whole person. So each little thing that you've picked up on throughout your life has led to becoming one of these types, just like any other personality type test that we've done. So a disc or a color, if you've done the color one, I think it's called True Colors. Any of those, all of those things are, you fall into one of their categories based on your experiences and different aspects of your personal life. So for example, on the disc profile, they say the ideal person is the center of all 4 personality types. It's very similar in the Enneagram. We all have types of each, we all have percentages of each type of the person or personality type, but we all have one primary type. And that's where it kind of gets a little complex, and you might think you identify in some situations more as a certain type rather than another type or your main type. In the middle of the Enneagram, there's a triangle, and it represents the dynamic interaction of 3 forces. So any pair of opposites create a middle ground, and that brings us together. So the triangle is represented by types 3, 6, and 9. Then the other types are represented and connected by a hexad, which is an irregular figure, and it represents dynamism and change. Types 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, and 8 are all connected in that hexad. So now that you've heard a little history about the Enneagram and what an Enneagram even is, because I did not know that either, let's talk about the different types. So again, it's believed that you have one dominant type, but you can show healthy, average, or even unhealthy variations of that specific type, depending on the point in your life that you may be in. And we might switch between these points at any point in our daily lives. And you might even be stuck in one area for a couple months, a couple years. If you're in a highly stressed situation, you might stick in one portion of your personality type or your wings personality type for a very long period of time, depending on your situation. But also, depending on your interactions, you might jump from, a healthy version to an unhealthy version just very quickly. So let's dig into the types. So type 1. Type 1 is our model child, or the perfectionist. They seek integrity and are motivated by strong principles and desire goodness. They believe the world should be ethical, just, and improved. They are idealists in the sense that they believe that they know exactly how to perfect the world, and they wonder why others can't see how to perfect the world. And the cool thing about a number 1 is that you'll never find two number 1s that are exactly the same, because they won't have the same point of view or the same vision for the world. However, they all will have integrity and are conscientious. Type 2s. 2s are the selfless caregiver or the advisors. They seek connection and are motivated by a desire to connect with others through loving, mutually, and nurturing relationships. They care deeply and are great at recognizing and meeting people's needs. One of the tests that I took mentioned that if you were a female and you had, say you had 3 numbers, so I had 6, 9, and 2. They were all very close, and they were within like 1 point of each other. But it said, so if you had 3 or even 2 numbers that were tied, and one of them was a 2, most likely that is because as a female, you are actually taught to be the nurturing person. So it's just in our nature to, tend to people's needs as a mother or friend or whatever the case is. I'm not saying the men aren't that way either, but it is more likely that you're a woman if you have a high number 2. Number 3. These are the achievers. They seek value and are motivated by their need to shine, exemplify, and embody a personal sense of value. They're typically proficient in many disciplines. They are self-assured, adaptable, and can wow others by their achievements and their grace. So, some examples of a number 3 that when I was researching, I found, and one of the books I'm reading is actually 3s are efficient and accomplished business professionals, athletes, celebrities, spiritual leaders, rebels, and parents. So, I mean, if you think about a number 3 and the achievers, when you think about a celebrity, you definitely think about probably wow from their achievements when you think of, the global awards or the Academy Awards, whatever they're called. Same thing with athletes, who's won the Super Bowl, all of that stuff. Type 4s. So 4s are the individualists. They seek identity and are motivated by desire to know themselves fully. They are attuned by the realm of subjectivity, and they help point others towards universal truths. They share and recognize the beauty they find in the inner and outer worlds. So 4s are somebody more like artistic-y, type of person, I would say. Like they're probably pretty in tune with their spiritual lives, whatever their spirituality is. They really fully understand themselves. Their emotions are important to really dive in and understand. And I don't think in this association we had very many 4s. So type 5. 5s are thinkers and the investigators. They search for clarity and masterful knowledge. They also believe resources are scarce, and unlike most types, they try to minimize their needs instead of going into the world and getting the things that they need. They're innovative and inventive, and they love to learn new things if it's something that interests them. They're committed and meticulous to testing and questioning the processes of discovery. Type 6. 6s are the loyalists or the guardians. They seek guidance and are motivated by the search for said guidance. They are defined by a deep uncertainty and mistrust for the world. Due to the uncertainties, they may not verbalize their worries or doubts, but they may succumb to them, which leads to high anxiety and self-doubt. And however, they might have high anxiety and self-doubt. They are very collaborative and understand that we're all interdependent, and they make very good allies and strong team builders. 7s. 7s are the optimists or the enthusiasts. They seek freedom and are motivated by the pursuit of freedom and possibility. They like to see the good in everything and avoid pain and boredom limitations. They typically have a wide range of interests and can make anything an adventure. Without 7s, we would not have vacations and we would not have parties. Type 8. 8s are the challengers. They seek power and are motivated by the desire of having power and making an impact. One might say that they are noticed when they walk into a room because of their executive presence. They are extremely self-confident and are people of action who value results and speak their minds. 9s. 9s are the mediators or the peacemakers. They seek harmony and are motivated by balance. They are able to see all interconnections of life, including good, bad, humanity, and nature. They also excel at setting people at ease and creating environments where everyone feels welcome. Although they are accommodating and agreeable, it can be a downside to this type as they tend to lose touch with their own inner voice. So basically, 9s are so worried about making sure that the waters aren't stirred, that they kind of forget to speak what they feel, and they kind of lose sense of their own personal self because they're so worried about making sure that the pot's not stirred, essentially. So that was a brief description of all the 9 types. However, each type has its own variation, and one of the reasons why the Enneagram is so complex is because one of the factors that drives the personality types and the different variations are your wings and your arrows. So let's talk about a wing. So a wing is one of the 2 numbers on either side of you. So if you're a 6, your wing is either a 5 or a 7. And whatever number of those 2 numbers had the highest, then that's what you are. For example, I'm a 6-7. I believe my 7 was like a 80% and my 5 was like a 60%. I don't know the exact numbers, but that's how you would determine it. So my main personality type is a 6. Then my next highest was the 7, so I'm a 6-7. So sometimes each of those personalities can look very different. For example, a 4 with a 3 wing might appear very dramatic, while a 4 with a 5 wing might appear more reserved and intellectually oriented. And depending on the situation, as I mentioned before, you can slide between those wings, and it's believed that we actually use each wing equally. You have one dominant type still, but you use your wings equally depending on your situations and the scenario that you're thrown into. However, some will say that you still always have a dominant wing. Wings can appear strong, and one might personify that type's behavior or personality. So, for example, a 4 with a strong wing of a 3 might act more like a 3 rather than a 4. On the reverse side of that, wings can also be weak, making it hard or difficult to see and determine what your wings might actually be. So again, take a look at your numbers. So you'll go through your test results. I know it's kind of broke out in body types, which we're going to talk about next in the next little either video or bit of information that I send out. But if you go through, it'll break down like, 1, 2, 3, 4, all your percentages on that. So find your dominant type, which is clear down at the bottom where it says we're going to go in depth. Find that type and then go to the number before or after and see which one your wing is. So now that you know what your dominant type is and your wing, then we can move on to our arrows. So if you recall at the beginning of the video, I said that we're all interconnected. So all the types are connected either through the hexad or the triangle. And I will show you here where you're all connected. So each type is connected to 2 other types by either being categorized in centers or triads based upon their tendencies, and they can be connected by the arrows. So we're going to cover arrows today, and then as we get into the triads, then that's when we'll start talking about the bodies of your test results. So arrows reflect the shift that we make as we encounter different situations when we're stressed, secured, and as we go through personal development. Transitions between the types typically happen seamlessly, multiple times throughout the day, or as I mentioned before, you could be stuck in one of those types for months or years depending on where you're at in your life. So like I said, if you're in a super high stress situation for a long period of time, you might stay in your stressed arrows personality type rather than your own. So an example would be a 9 takes on positive characteristics of a 3 when they feel secure, but they might take on negative characteristics of a 6 when they feel stressed. But on the contrary, 9s also take on positive characteristics of a 6 when they go through personal development. So again, here's the chart that shows all of your arrows. You can pause the video if you need to and kind of see where your arrows are. One thing to keep in mind is that you still are in your dominant type and you still have your dominant wing, but you can stay in one of those other areas depending on the stage of life that you're in. So before we get too far ahead, I want to stop here and let you guys first determine your dominant type, your wing, and then really focus in on what arrows that you go to when you're stressed or when you feel secure. So I will be covering some of that stuff and how we're further connected to each other based on your triads, and start covering those body types in the next session like I just mentioned. But for now, I hope you guys enjoy that, and I hope you enjoy digging deep into this Enneagram this summer, and I look forward to hearing all of your guys' feedback. Thanks!